Good afternoon. I declare this meeting of Glamorgan Springvale Council open at 2 p.m.
Thank you. The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their long and continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Agenda item 1.1 is present. All councillors are present in the chamber. There are therefore no apologies and leave of absence at 1.2. In attendance today, we have the Director of Works and Infrastructure and Acting General Manager, Mr. Peter Porch. The Acting Director of Planning and Development, Mr. James Bonner. The Executive Officer, Mrs. Jasmine Kerr. Administrative Officer, Ms. Christine McConnell, and our Planner, Ms. Tiara Williams. And 2 members of the public in the gallery. Agenda item 1.4, Mr. Porch, I don't believe we have any late reports.
There are no late reports, ma'am.
Thank you. Agenda item 1.5 is the declaration of interest or conflict. As Mayor, I now request elected members to indicate whether they have any interest, personal or via a close associate as defined in section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or 2, any conflict as described in the Model Code of Conduct for Councillors in any item included in the agenda. No conflicts. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is confirmation of the minutes, the ordinary meeting of the 25th of March. There is a recommendation on page 6. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you.
I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 25th of March 2025 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Young, thank you. I will put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 2.2, the date and purpose of workshops held is April the 1st. There is April the 1st, April the 8th. There is a recommendation on page 8. Councillor Gregson, thank you.
With regard to page
Councillor Gregson, are you moving the motion, the information be received?
Oh, yes, I can move the motion, yes, if you like, please councillor note the information. But
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Woods, Councillor Walker, thank you. Now, Councillor Gregson.
On page 8, guests, Peter Huntermeyer, Phil Pike said that he was unwell but didn't attend the workshop on the Tuesday, the 8th of April 2025.
Thank you. I believe you're absolutely correct. That can be corrected. Thank you. Anything else on the workshops? Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 2.3 is the audit panel minutes, Tuesday the 25th of March. There is a recommendation on page 10. Councillor Churchill, thank you.
I move that council receives and notes the attached minutes of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council audit panel meeting held on the 25th of March 2025.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Young. Thank you. Any questions or comments? I'll put the motion.
Oh, yes, if I may.
Sorry, Councillor. Yes.
I just wanted to bring to council's attention the Auditor General's report to Parliament, and 2 lines. It says, good trends with underlying surplus and uncommitted cash tracking up and debt down. Still have a backlog of capital works to catch up on. I thought that was a really good summary, and it's interesting to know that the auditors are keeping an eye on us and all other councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions or comments? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 3 is public question time. I note that Mr. Porch, I understand we did receive a question on notice from Mr. Wyminga, and that has been refused.
That's correct.
Thank you. So the reasons for refusal are council advised Mr Wominga on at least 5 occasions between September 2024 and January 2025 that the dwelling under construction had been assessed as no permit required. The concern that the building was not constructed in accordance with the plans was referred to the building surveyor, who advised council that the construction was in accordance with the no permit required plans. It is noted that it is the building surveyor's responsibility to ensure compliance with approved plans. Thank you. Agenda item 3.2 is questions without notice. We have Mr Edwards in the chamber with us and he has some questions for us. Mr Edwards, if you'd like to ask your questions. Thank you. And Mrs Edwards.
Thank you. DA 2025/29 is for retrospective approval of a frontage fence. That's a front fence and 4.5 metre long side fence. Construction commenced over 16 months ago. The first fence, black steel fence, was constructed entirely on the road reserve so that the gates opened out right to the edge of the road. The second fence, the galvanised steel picket fence, is also on the road reserve. It is 2.1 metres high when measured from existing ground level. Infill has been placed without council approval on the road reserve to raise the level of the ground to make it appear that the fence is only 1.8 metre high. If the council had received a development application for the fence and infill as now exists before construction commenced, would the council have rejected the development application or accepted the development application and imposed conditions requiring the fence to be on or within the property boundary, limited in height to 1.8 metres and not allowing infill on the road? That's the end of question 1. Question 2 is in DA 2025/29, view 1 of the front fence prior to landscaping. The remains of the black steel fence are described as temporary. In agenda item 4.2, in the minutes here, the response to representation 1 states that the black fence and gates are temporary. Why is a black steel fence with poles concreted into the ground, erected at least 18 months ago without planning permission, considered a temporary fence?
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
That's your questions?
Yes.
Mrs Edwards, you don't have any questions?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr Edwards, as you are now aware, there's no debate in the public question time section of the agenda. This matter is listed as a planning authority matter later in our agenda. So I'm not able to provide any answers to your questions now,
Yes,
nor
I understand.
allow other councillors or officers to respond. So you are more than welcome to stay in the meeting and hear the debate around the matter at agenda item 4.2.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions without notice, we will move on. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is the planning authority section. So under regulation 25 of the local government meeting procedures, regulation 2015, as chairperson, I hereby declare that council is now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for section 4 of the agenda. There is a recommendation on page 12. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I'll move that council now acts as a planning authority at 2:09 PM.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Edwards, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried unanimously. Agenda item 4.1 is DA 2025/20/2053A Burgess Street, a retrospective illuminated sign in Vishno. Councillor Edwards, there is a recommendation.
I will move that pursuant to section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Glamorgan Spring Bay, DA 2025/20 at 53A Burgess Street, CT 170739/201, for an illuminated sign be approved with the following conditions. Endorsed plans and documents. Use and development must be substantially in accordance with the endorsed plans and documents unless modified by a condition of this permit. Any changes may either be deemed as substantially in accordance with the permit or may first require a formal amendment to this permit or a new permit to be issued. Signage. The illuminated sign is to be on a timer and can only be illuminated during the following hours, 8 until 10 p.m. daily. This sign must only identify or advertise a business located within the building. This sign must not create the effect of flashing, animation or movement.
Thank you. Seconded. Deputy Mayor Simons, thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion? And noting that you've changed the time to 10 p.m. Do you wish to speak to the
I'll
motion?
reserve my right to
Reserve
close.
your right. Another speaker for or against the motion? Councillor Young?
I'll speak for the motion. It seems to me that the signage is internal, so it has limited wide scope to adjacent properties. It has some. It's likely only to be operative during the expected time of the use of the brewery in its business activities, and the restriction to 9 p.m. seems to me to be reasonably intrusive, and consequently I support to 10 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker
Oh,
for the
no,
motion?
I'm just going to speak to the motion. So do we have an amendment here from sort of 8 a.m. in the recommendation here, endorsed plans and documents, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily? Do we have an amendment to this?
Councillor Edwards moved the amendment inside his motion.
Yes, but
That was the recommendation. It doesn't necessarily have to have an amendment.
right, but I didn't hear him say 10.
Yes,
I heard him
yes,
say
you
10.
Did he say 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll go for the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I had looked at the sign when I was visiting the Vishnu Bakery, which is a very good bakery, and it's inside. The neon sign, the worst thing that happens to a neon sign is hail, but it's inside, so therefore that will ameliorate that problem. And the size is not too bad and transparent, but I still think that I'd like it from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and this is a retrospective as well. So we've got two retrospective development applications coming up. So I'd like to set a bit of a precedent here. So I'll 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'll go for.
Councillor Churchill?
Yeah, I guess my concern, or my major concern with this one, is that the wall of the building, and in other words, the light itself, is right up against the neighbouring property, as I understand it, right to the very margin. I think that's correct. I look at the future of that. That's my concern. Is that going to restrict the sale of any land there or the potential development of something else at that site? So in other words, if, for example, the owners, who I believe are the church, if they wanted to construct something or sell off part of that land as a building block or whatever they might choose to do with it, is that going to somehow restrict the next owner of that land?
Councillor Churchill, do you wish Mr Bonner to comment?
I would love a comment if that's possible, please.
Mr Bonner, it wasn't really a question, but rather a comment, but do you have any comment in relation to councillors' concerns?
It's difficult to provide an answer for a hypothetical situation. However, in a local business zone, the expectation is in the zone is that you build to the side boundary with a fire rated wall. So the fact that they've, and I'll go further, the fact that this building has been built to the boundary with windows is not necessarily a consideration for a future application on the adjoining lot.
Thank you. So what I'm really hearing through the mayor, what I'm really hearing here is that if another commercial developer wanted to build beside there, they would have every right to build right up to that wall. In other words, in front of that sign. Is that correct?
Through your mayor, potentially yes, though it's always subject to the planning scheme and any building requirements.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor McQueen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through to the Director,
of planning as well. I'm advised by a few people in Bicheno that there was in fact trees or bushes, large bushes in exactly the area in front of the building which have died over the recent year or so, and the church folk are unsure why the death of those particular ones in front of that window may have occurred. So my question is also that are we, or if this is approved, are we inhibiting the church to replace the vegetation that was there previously, which would obscure the sign, or not?
Mr Bonner, I'm not sure if you got that total question. It was in relation to some shrubbery that was there at the time, but I'm guessing that the shrubbery wasn't there when the sign was put up. Is that?
No, that's not my question. My
not-
question is, if this is approved
Yes.
and the church chooses to replace the now dead shrubbery
Well,
in that area, that this permit would not impede their rights to do that.
Mr Bonner, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, again, a difficult hypothetical situation, but council generally doesn't have an oversight on people undertaking landscaping works on their own property.
So if they
Councillor McQueen, do you have another question?
well, I'm not sure if that's actually given there, yes or no. I guess I'm just wanting to understand if we don't have rights and vegetation is replaced, and it may or may not obscure part of the sign, there is no role for council in that. Is that right?
Through you, Mayor, I'm not a solicitor, a lawyer, I can only talk to the planning scheme.
Yeah.
And under the planning scheme, council has limited jurisdiction over landscaping, and people undertaking landscaping on their own property. And potential impacts on an adjoining property. I really can't provide much more information than that.
Okay. I have a second question. When this was originally sort of put and discussed with us, not in council, there was a time frame to 7 p.m, which I had expected that would be what we saw in the paper that came to us. It's been, and understand the sensitivity that people have in the area, given that even up to 7 extends beyond the current opening hours. So can someone please explain to us why it moved to 9?
My only response to that is, sorry, Councillor Young?
So it's not relevant to the comment. Is not relevant to the motion. The motion has been moved. And what council officers did or didn't say is not relevant to the motion as it's moved.
It goes to the council officer's assessment of the matter, and Councillor Edwards has now moved an amendment to that assessment, which any councillor has the right to do.
Yeah. So I won't be supporting an extension, which is already, in my mind, an extension on the original
Point of
suggestion.
order, Madam.
Sure, thank you. Councillor Young, please.
There's no evidence that it
Councillor
is
Young.
an extension of anything.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Walker, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask a question. I mean, I know we've been told, but on page 19, under the planner's response, in the second paragraph, the Department of Transport and Planning, VIC, provides guidelines on illuminated signs and suggested maximum illumination rating and so on. For the people that are watching our meeting, why do we use Planning Victoria guidelines?
Mr Bonner?
Excuse me. Sorry.
That's all right.
Through you, Mayor. In researching this situation, we couldn't find any guidelines from Tasmania. Victoria, I suppose, is the closest. We have a lot of interaction between Victorian and Tasmanian guidelines,
Mhm.
and this was deemed as an appropriate consideration of the situation as to what would be an acceptable level.
Thank you. And further to that, Madam Mayor, I will be supporting this. This is a business, you know, we've got to be sympathetic to the people that
Point
have.
of order, madam. Irrelevant to the planning scheme.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so with regards to the signage, I think it's minimal, and to have it go through to 10 PM, especially through the summer months when it doesn't get dark until later in the day or in the day, I think it's not that too much to ask.
Typically,
I'll just add to that in that I'll be supporting the motion. I think it's a pretty good compromise. The intent of the sign is to advertise after closing hours. I just have to correct Councillor McQueenie on the opening hours of the business. I believe they can trade up to 12 PM. If they wish, then they're often open until 7 or 8 PM in the evenings. And the intent apparently of the sign is to allow the business to be seen on those couple of hours after they're potentially closed for customers the next day, I believe. So I think it's a good compromise.
If I may, my quoting till 5 PM was the advice that the actual owner gave me in the phone call. So, that they were his.
Madam Mayor, I move the motion to now put.
Pardon?
I'll just like
well,
to,
councillor Edwards should have the opportunity to close,
Yep.
councillor Young.
it will be
And
brief.
I'm happy to accept your motion to put the motion, or the procedural motion, but I think we should give councillor Edwards the opportunity to close, given that he moved the motion. Councillor Edwards,
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have spoke to the owner of the business as well. And he actually messaged me today and said that it says 5 PM on Google, but as Deputy Mayor Simon said, that is to stop people turning up at 8. So as he's still there at midnight, he said, so the door shuts when the last customer leaves. Also, I did a little bit of research. Civil twilight, which is considered to be the time after sunset when you can maintain activities outside, as in kick the football or walk the dog without needing of artificial lighting. In December and January in Bicheno is between 9 and 9:20. So if he is made to turn his light off at 9, it will be a complete waste of time and money, because it won't have any advertising
Thank
effect.
you. Thank you.
So that's
Thank you,
fine.
councillor Edwards. On that note, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Gregson and councillor McQueenie are against. Agenda item 4.2 is the fence at DA 2025/20029, 56 Barton Avenue, Tribunna, up front fence. There is a recommendation on page 34. Is the recommendation on page 34? Councillor Edwards.
I'll do it. I move pursuant to section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Glamorgan Spring Bay, DA 2025/029 at 56 Barton Avenue, Tribunna, CT 93258/6, for a front fence be approved subject to the following conditions. Use and development must be substantially in accordance with the endorsed plans and documents unless modified by a condition of this permit. Any changes may either be deemed as substantial or in accordance with the permit, or may first require a formal amendment to this permit or a new permit be issued. 2. The existing black picket fence and gates located within the road reserve are to be completely removed within 3 months of the date of this permit. 3. Any gates installed are to be located in line with the galvanised picket fence and are to be sliding gates or gates that open inward onto the property so that the gates do not open into the road reserve. 4. The galvanised picket fence and any gates are to be painted in monument colour or similar dark colour within 3 months of the date of this permit.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Simons. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Reserve.
Reserved. Thank you. Councillor Simons, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, not at the moment.
Right. Any speaker for or against the motion?
Oh, well, this is,
Sorry, who
Through
is
me.
first? Councillor Gregson?
yes, I'll go, thank you. I just, between the previous development application and this one, there's another retrospective application, and to make a final determination by the 30th of April 2025, whereas the previous one was the 1st of May. If there's any complications, we have no leeway here to gain any legal advice or anything like that. Is there a reason why the deadline is so close to the ordinary council meeting or not?
Council meeting, Mr Bonner, would you like to explain statutory date to Councillor Gregson, please?
Councillor Gregson, we have, to you, Mayor, excuse me. We, due to administrative area for the last council meeting, council had to apply for an extension of time to the owner, to the applicant, and they agreed to the extension of time. We only required an extension to get to the council meeting for a decision to be made. So therefore, that's why it finishes just shortly after the next day or two after the council meeting.
Right, it's just through the mayor. Now, we have in the proposal, we've got intruding on council reserve by 300 millimetres. So quintessentially, you've got a fence line here that's impinging on the coast, on the council reserve by 300 millimetres. Really, that should really be placed back in line, or alternatively, there is a suggestion here that there might be a license agreement. And that's rather extraordinary, because how much would that cost? How will it be imposed? Is it a once only cost? Is it a cost per year? And who pays for this? And really, to save council all the bureaucratic agreement here, license agreement, it may be suggested that the fence be placed in the correct position and not on the council reserve. And it's extraordinary to have a gate that comes out on the reserve and not inward. I've never known a gate to go outwards. Otherwise, that's a real public hazard, basically. So I'd just like to have it explained to me that what is this license agreement? How will it work, please?
Mr Porch, if I can come to you, part of Councillor Gregson's question is an administrative operational section. So would you like to comment on that? And the second part, I think, is to do with the planning scheme, which probably fits in under Mr Bonner's area.
Certainly. Through you, Madam Mayor. Effectively administrative processes. We manage a range of administrative processes subject to conditions in properties all over the municipality. Some of them desirable, some of them less desirable, some of them to achieve practical outcomes. And so it's suggested that may be a means of dealing with it. Not saying it is going to be a means of dealing with it, but may be a means of dealing with it.
Mr Bonner, Councillor Gregson asked about the gates going into, but my understanding is the gates are going to be sliding left to right.
In 3, it's in the motion.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So the current black gate opens into the road reserve. And the recommended condition is that any new gates that are installed are sliding gates or open inward. So again, they don't impact on the road reserve. Primarily, it's to do with traffic safety, so vehicles do not have to prop on the road while the gates are being opened.
That's great. No,
Councillor Gregson, can I draw your attention to condition 3 in the motion?
Yes, no, I've seen it, but the other question I had was the alignment of the gate and the fence of 300 millimetres on the actual council reserve. I might suggest that it goes back to the actual surveyed line. So I'd like to ask through you, Mayor.
Mr Porch or Mr Bonner, who
Uh,
wishes?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's not part of the resolution. So we're dealing with a resolution that is before us at the moment.
So you're not considering moving that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if the councillor doesn't particularly like the resolution, it's certainly, potentially you may vote against it, and if it's defeated, you may put up another motion that deals with it.
Thank you, councillor McQueenie.
Well, I'd like to ask that the question that was put without notice earlier today is answered, please.
Pardon?
Is answered now,
Uh,
as we consider this matter.
Madam Mayor, I didn't understand what
Councillor
McQueen
McQueen,
said.
Councillor McQueen is asking if Mr Edwards's questions from the public question time could be answered now in this section. I'm not sure, Mr Porch, can you give me, sorry, Deputy Mayor?
I think Councillor McQueen asked that question.
Sure.
That would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can answer the question in part of the process, councillor. I think it's a question that you would probably have to ask before we can address it in this section in the planning authority. I think the Deputy Mayor's correct in
May I
that.
ask for a quick adjournment so that I can get at that question in front of me to ask?
Madam Mayor, I'd agree to
Yeah.
a short adjournment.
No,
That's who it is.
yeah, councillor McQueenie has it now, so I don't know that the adjournment is necessary. Do you require the
No, that's
adjournment
fine.
now, councillor?
That's fine.
Councillor, thank you.
I wish to ask the following question regarding DA 2025/29. DA 2025/29 is for retrospective approval of a frontage fence, front fence and 4.5 metre long side fences. Construction commenced over 16 months ago. The first fence, black steel fence, was constructed entirely on the road reserve so that the gates opened out right to the edge of the road. The second fence, the galvanised steel picket fence, is also on the road reserve. It is 2.1 metres high when measured from existing ground level. Infill has been placed without Glamorgan Spring Bay approval, council approval, on the road reserve to raise the level of the road to make it appear that the fence is only 1.8 metres high. If Glamorgan Spring Bay Council had received a development application for the fence and infill as now exists before construction commenced, would Glamorgan Spring Bay have 1, rejected the development application, or 2, accepted the development application and imposed conditions requiring the fence to be on or within the property boundary, limited in height to 1.8 metres and not allowing infill on the road reserve? Second part, in DA 2025/29, view 1 of the front fence prior to landscaping, which has been provided in papers, the remains of the black steel fence are described as temporary. In agenda item 2, the response to representation 1 states the black fence and gates are temporary. Why is a black steel fence with poles concreted into the ground erected at least 18 months ago without planning permission considered a temporary fence?
Thank you, Mr Porch.
Yes, I'll take that. Could I answer the question, please? Councillor McQueenie, through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Council often deals with things that are retrospective, and for practical purposes, there is a need to do that. People, private property owners, from time to time, proceed with works that should be governed by a permit. We have processes in place by which we work through with property owners to get an acceptable result or acceptable result for council and for the community. The question is hypothetical, and I won't go into the hypotheticals of would we have done something different. This is the situation we have. It is a situation that we often have where we're dealing with things that have occurred previously. As to the as to the consideration of it being a temporary offence, we now have a planning approval process in place, or in train, which we're dealing with at the moment. Given that there is a recommendation before council to determine action associated with that, it could be determined as a temporary offence if the council determined to do something other than to accept it as it is.
Thank you, councillor McLean.
Yeah, if I can add then that this, as I look at this situation came to council's attention through a complaint more than a year ago now. And whilst respecting the issue of retrospective, those changes that have happened, like putting earth in the fence to bring it up to 1.8, are only more recent. So when this first came along, if we'd been talking about considering the fence that at that point that was put before us, as we sort of did as council, one could appreciate that we were talking about a retrospective from a first build. We're now, after all this time with this not having been addressed, looking at further, if you like, work being undertaken on what was already acknowledged as temporary. So if you like, we haven't just considered a retrospective, we've allowed further work from something that already was retrospective. So along with the key issues about incursion onto the road, not the road area, the road reserve area, and the fact that it just doesn't meet those obligations. The person knew it didn't meet those obligations in terms of the what council had articulated around requirements, and had subsequently allowed even further work. I can't support this.
Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor. I've sat and listened to everything that's going on here. The fact that this has gone on to council land, it's built onto the road reserves, I understand. It's only by a foot, by 300 millimetres. And it appears that there has been opportunities in the past where it could have been put on site, right onto the line. That does appear to be the case. Now, there was a suggestion somewhere that a licence could be required by the owner to allow the fence to remain in the position where it is. And if that were done, that licence would then be there in perpetuity, so that if the property was sold on, the new owner would realise that that is on that land because of that licence, and they would be able to act accordingly. So I would just like to foreshadow an additional condition to the motion that we have in front of us now. If that motion is lost, I would like to foreshadow a condition that a licence be requested by the owner at their cost to retain the fence on council land.
Mr. Bonner or Mr. Forge, do you have any?
Through you, Madam
I'm happy to
Mayor,
take the foreshadowed motion, but
there may be some value in a comment from Mr. Bonner, if he has one, regarding the challenges and issues around effectively covenants and things.
Councillor Young, can I come to you in a sec?
I want to raise an issue about the licence itself. Licences are only in perpetuity if covered with a grant, and that means we can have licence revocable at will, on a month's notice, 3 months' notice, 6 months' notice. We own the land over which the licence would be granted, and we can impose the condition on the licence should we so desire. It's probably an administrative thing, not required to come before council.
Mr. Bonner, did you wish to comment on anything that's come up in relation to the licence? I'll be fair enough and tell you I'm just a wee bit confused here at the moment.
Through you, Mayor, only in that we still would have to confirm through survey the property boundaries. As I said in the report, it appears that it's encroaching on the council land by 300 mil. I have to say I'm not entirely confident that council would be able to impose a licence condition in a permit that relates to a separate piece of legislation. So I'm a little bit unclear on that.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I haven't got a lot to say. I'll be supporting the motion as it is, but the conversation around the licence, I think, is for a piece of land is probably unnecessary and restrictive to council to a point through the management of it and having to deal with it for that smaller pound of space. And from what our planner, Mr. Bonners, just said, there is some question about whether that is the actual case. I draw council's attention to the road reserve space, which I'm happy to be corrected, but potentially it might be 3 or 4 metres worth of land down to the existing road that's there, which is land that potentially probably never gets used unless there's a 2-lane highway going through there that we're unaware of. So as it is, it's a difficult situation, and I think the conditions that are applying, that the gates go back inside the property and slide sideways or open inwards. I'm not sure about the change of ground height, whether that's a supposition or whether that's actual. Looking at the pictures, it doesn't quite seem like there's a big lift in ground height. So yes, I'll support the motion as it is.
I'd like to speak on the motion itself rather than
You may,
nothing.
Councillor Young.
Council could ask the applicant to sign a licence, otherwise we'll kick you off the land. We can do that without going through the planning plan. And once he signs the licence, he'll probably be modestly happy, not very, but modestly. That would prevent him from applying to get a squatter's title over that thin slip of land. So far as the building of the land up, I think it's very obvious that it was done by the applicant. The significance of it, I think, is minimal once all the rest of the conditions are met. So I will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Do you wish to close the debate?
Yeah, very briefly, I saw the photographs that Mr. and Mrs. Edwards sent where they had been built up in the one corner. Having been a fencing contractor in a previous life, it's an awful lot easier to fence a flat one than one where the corner is built up. So I can, even though it may not have been the correct thing to do, I can understand why it's done to make the fencing a lot easier. It's a very difficult one because they shouldn't have built the fence on the strip of council land. It appears that the council is sort of a little bit damned if they do and damned if they don't in this situation. And that's really all I've got to say.
Thank you. Noting that I have a foreshadowed motion, if the original motion is lost, I will put the motion of those in favour. Those against, Councillor McCready, Councillor Gregson and Councillor Churchill are against. The motion is carried. Thank you. Under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedure Regulations 2015, the Chairperson hereby declares that the Council is no longer acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act for Section 4 of the agenda. There is a recommendation on page 36. Councillor Walker, thank you.
Thank you. Under Regulation 25 of the Land Use Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulation 20. No, I don't have to read that. You've already done that. So I move that council no longer acts as a planning authority at 2:45 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gregson, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Mr. and Mrs. Edwards, you are more than welcome to stay for the balance of the council meeting. If you would prefer to leave, that's perfectly fine as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Attendance.
Thank you very much for attending the council meeting.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5 is the financial reports. There is a recommendation on page 38. Councillor Young, thank you.
I move that council receives and notes the financial report
Thank
as
you. Is there-
attached to this report for the period ending March 2025.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Gregson, Councillor Young, do you have any comment?
No.
Any other questions or comments on the financial reports? Councillor Churchill?
Yes, I do, but I'm just having a minute to find them, if that's all right. Where are they in the? Sorry to do this. Wrong one.
Ask Councillor Churchill's.
I am getting that.
Are there any other questions whilst Councillor Churchill finds his question? Nothing further?
Through you, Madam Mayor, maybe page 50 or around there.
Yeah, I've got the page now. I've just got to get it blown up to a size where I can actually read it with my very poor vision. Oh, it was around the notes. We don't have a finance officer in the chamber, do we?
I'm sorry?
No finance officer in the chamber that I can direct a question to. I'll direct it to the general
Can
manager.
direct it to the acting general manager.
Thank you. Just read the notes on the profit and loss. Note 7 says timing, 373K, Black Summer Bushfire Grant funds for Telstra works paid to Telstra in January and March. If you go back to 7, the comment, the note, if you take that back to 7, it's listed under materials and services. And I was just wondering why it's listed there. So without a fight, I quite understand that there'll be a question on notice for you probably.
No,
You know,
through you, Madam Mayor. This is part of the Black Summer work, which has been an unusual grant to administer. Usually they go through as a capital project because it results in council constructing an asset of some kind. This one, because of the nature of it, incorporated in the Black Summer Bushfire Grant was money that effectively was passed through council to Telstra, and similarly, in a similar way to the provision of the bushfire water tanks on private property, and they were run through the private works account, which is quite unusual, but the only practical way of managing those financial transactions. So I expect that it's sitting where it is as a result of that unusual handling of the funds.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Finance question? Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Agenda item 6 is the section 24 committee reports. There is a recommendation on page 41 for section 6 plus. Councillor Young.
I move that the minutes of the Parliamentary Committee held 4 March be received and noted, and that the recommendations contained therein for appointment of Kerry Chapronier, I think is how you spell their name, as a member of the committee.
Councillor, I need to get a seconder, please.
Be approved.
Councillor Edwards. Thank you. Councillor Young, you wish to come in?
Yes, I have some comments.
Right.
The committee meeting was informal because there wasn't a quorum. But unfortunately, both the chairman and the secretary treasurer died. And as a consequence, there's a deficiency. One of the committee members is not particularly well because of advanced age, and don't look at me. I was there, and my age is advancing a year today. But the fact of the matter was, he wasn't there, so there wasn't a quorum. Kerry Chap Ronier came along. She told us she was a member of the Tivoli Hall Committee Inc., which is one of the main users of the hall. And she seems to have done a reasonable job. I like the end result of the minutes. They weren't absolutely accurate, but the end result is what was aimed at. And I recommend both item 1 and item 2 that the minutes be received and noted, and the appointment of Kerry Chap Ronier.
Be approved. Any other questions or comments?
On page 39, is it Malcolm Bishop?
Yes,
Well, it's a misspelling here, because if it's put through a database, he wouldn't be picked up.
of what?
A database, oh, well, that doesn't matter, but it's misspelled, Malcolm. I was just
Something,
wondering.
that's a matter for the committee, councillor Gregson, it's
Yeah.
not for us to
What
direct it.
database, Councillor Gregson? I don't quite follow.
Oh, no, it's just it's Malcolm Bishop, there's this MALCOCHOM, should have been.
Oh, an illness, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Look at, obviously, a typographic.
yeah, that's fine.
And
Yeah,
councillor Gregson,
And just secondly, which is there, of course, hall keys on page 40, it was agreed that a hall key inventory needs to be made, as it seems there are many keys in circulation. Once completed, the key register is to be established. I think it's a very good idea, because once you get keys going all around, you don't know who's got here, who's having access to it. So I'd like to congratulate the whole committee for that
Thank you.
decision.
thank you, councillor Gregson. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to bring that up within this meeting too. As a previous committee member, there is a key registry,
Yes,
and it was held by the then late Adrian O'Leary, and now I suspect through you to Mr. Porch that it would be held by Mr. Daniel Herman.
Sounds like.
So there is a key registry, so that will be no doubt taken care of.
If we knew about it, it would be good.
And I must, and if I may too, Madam Mayor, there's only one person that was there at that committee that's been on that committee for a long time, Kayleen Lee. Greg Crump and Kerry are new, and I would like to acknowledge the passing of both David and Gavin. I was unaware that for quite some time that they had passed on, so just acknowledge, and they were very, very instrumental in getting the whole titty-baited up, for want of a better word. They were massively invested in that hall, so my sympathies go to their families.
Yes.
thank you, councillor Walker. Councillor Young, whilst this is introducing new information into this particular matter, I think you said that your advancing age arrived today. So if that is the case, and it is your birthday today, may we wish you a very happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
And also,
I don't remember the date of my birthday, so it's all hearsay.
On that note, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Sorry, councillor McQueenie, did you want to ask something? No, okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
I move that Councillor McQueenie be commended for reaching almost an advanced age.
22, is that right?
So the motion is carried unanimously, thank you. Agenda item 7 is the Acting Director Planning and Development's report. There is a recommendation on page 44. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
The council notes the information.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Edwards, thank you. Is there any questions or comments, Deputy Mayor? No, nothing?
I'll just,
Councillor Edwards?
yeah, through you, Mayor, I'd just like to say that the open space walking chappie rang me up and was very comprehensive in his questions and thought he was doing a good job. Whoever, not his name, but he was very invested in the whole thing. So that was good. That's the only comment I have.
Thank you, councillor Gregson.
On page 43, it's got building flood resilience in key areas of Ormsby Bay. The Landscape Recovery Foundation is currently working with the council. Now, I'd just like to clarify this. Is the actual building flood resilience, does that take into account areas that are known to be prone to flooding? And if so, if there's a development application in that area, will those areas be excluded from subdivision process?
Mr. Forge or Mr. Bonner? Mr. Bonner, it is your report, so I'm comfortable to go to you.
Through you, Mayor. So the answer to the first question, the building flood resilience is some grant funding that councils apply for some specific areas. One is Saltwater Creek.
Yes, that's Swansea. Right?
Swansea.
Yeah.
So that's that. Separately, the planning scheme has requirements where council identifies that there's flood prone land. That's part of an assessment in the during a subdivision of that suitability of that land for subdivision.
Or part thereof, do you mean?
Or
You could exclude the prone area of flooding, but still subdivide the land that's not prone to flooding on the same subdivision.
potentially, it's really looking at how during the subdivision process, how would it meet the various codes that would apply for allowing a subdivision. Presumably, if someone was going to build on it, that they could build a house on it in a safe location.
Yeah. And just true, thank you. Through the mayor again. We've got here, still on the same page, Biosecurity Tasmania will act as our authorised weed officer. Does that mean that, and we're going to have trained officers within council to act as a weed officer, does that mean that the actual council would be able to take away serrated tussock, or would they, as a weed officer, instruct the owners of which the serrated tussock is located to eradicate the aforementioned weed?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So, as council, as you rightly pointed out, does not have an authorised weeds officer at the moment. We approached NRE whether they could undertake that legislative function for council to issue notices on property owners. We have 2 staff members who will be attending training in May, so that will only be a short-lived requirement for us to engage with the NRE, and we'll be able to manage that process ourselves moving forward.
How long for if in time the council wants? Yeah.
Councillor Gregson, please, you need to speak up.
Yes.
This is not a debate session
Yeah,
between
no, I'm not debating, I'm just
between
asking
you and the
questions.
officer.
And it's just another question with regard.
I can't hear the question,
No,
Madam
that's my
Here
problem
we go.
too,
I'll
councillor
speak to,
Young.
I'll speak to
So
Councillor
councillor
Young.
Gregson,
The question was, the authorised officers appointed by council, would that be an infinite time period or a certain time period, please?
that's
question
an
I can't
operational matter
understand.
that will have to be dealt with by the acting general manager, councillor
I
Gregson.
thought there was. Okay, and just moving on to page 44. I'm very, this is a very good concept introduced by council, that the customer request model has been fully implemented for staff use, and it is anticipated that in
Is that a question, Madam Mayor?
Hang on. I'm just reading it, and my question will come, so the viewers will be cognizant of what I'm talking about. So, anticipated that in coming months will be made live to enable the public to directly lodge a request. I think that's a really good concept. Will that make councillors redundant?
Would that make what?
Councillors redundant.
Councillors or
That's
councillors?
not a question I'm going to delve into, councillor Gregson.
And
I'm guessing it's a rhetorical question or a devil's advocate question.
And my last one, Daniel Willsmore, who's conducting the survey and whatever, with the open space.
What
walking.
survey, Madam Mayor?
The open
Something
space
whatever,
walking.
what is
Yeah,
that?
hang on, councillor.
Councillor Gregson, please do not say hang on to a councillor. That is inappropriate language
So
in
what-
this chamber.
Through the mayor, what would you recommend, please?
Some civility.
No,
So
no, no. What term would you recommend? This
you-
council,
It's not your role to tell another councillor to hang on.
but he was interrupting me. I was
Councillor
not-
Gregson, please just
Madam
move
Mayor.
on, move
Yeah,
on,
yeah, okay,
councillor
fine.
Gregson.
Now, in pursuant, this is to do with open space walking and cycling strategy. Before I was interrupted, I was going to get to that, and it's been conducted by Daniel Wilsmore. Well, Daniel conducted every councillor who wanted to be contacted with regard to this strategy, and he's going to have and it probably is in vogue now, a community survey. And I was just wondering where the survey would be on the Walton Spring Bay Council website, but whereabouts would the hard copies be available? And will it be advertised in the Greater West Bay newsletter? And also, when would the end date be for this community survey being conducted by Mr. Wilsmore, please?
Madam Mayor, point of order.
Yes,
There's nothing about a survey said here.
Yes, there is.
There's nothing about Mr. Wilsmore. It might be a good idea for a person called Wilsmore to conduct a survey, but it's not in the report as I can see it. So really, it's not a question about the report.
councillor Young, councillor Gregson has asked a question about the community survey, which is mentioned in here. Now, if I recall correctly, there was notification just recently that the survey is live. Is it, that it is live at the moment, through council's various channels.
Thank you. And through the mayor, when will it end, please?
Pardon?
When will it end, please?
I don't know what the end date is, I'm sorry, councillor Gregson, that's an operational question that should be directed to Mr. Porch outside of this chamber.
Yes,
Councillor Edwards,
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have but one question,
yes.
and that is through the Building Flood Resilience Reserve, has Strawberry Hills Court been thrown into the mix in Orford where the creek banks of 20 metres of creek banks been washed away and it's very close to, it's encroaching on private land, and where those houses down the bottom, the three of them, they get flooded every time the creek runs a banker. I know it's not a council creek and I know it's an ongoing issue, but it really is something that needs addressing. I'm pleased to see the acting GM had his finger at Jenna.
Yes, Mr. Porch, of course.
I've recently been through there, taking some photos and then preparing some correspondence that will hopefully ignite some interest from the state.
Thank
Through you,
you.
Mayor, we've tried to ignite interest for a fair while, haven't we?
Councillor Churchill, did I see you with indicating? No. Any other questions or comments on Mr. Bonner's report? Thank you, Mr. Bonner, for an extensive report again. I appreciate
Thank you.
everything that you've done and answering councillor questions. If there is nothing further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, those against, carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 7.2 is the Director of Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Porch, also known as our Acting General Manager. There is a recommendation on page 49. Councillor Walker, thank you.
I'll move that council notes the information.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Simons, thank you. Councillor Walker, do you have any questions or comments? Councillor McQueenie, question?
Yeah, not a question, a comment. I just wanted to commend the content of this particular report. I think it provides a high level overview of a range of things that is very helpful in understanding where the ship's sort of going and where things are. So it's just really to comment and to thank you for the quality of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Edwards?
Quick comment, I'd just like to lavish praise on the council officers and workers on the proactive and great work they did down at the Tribunal Rec Ground. The staff and the officers, I've never seen anything move so quickly in all my life. It was Bruce Lightning, it was fantastic. And they were proactive in thinking of solutions, working things out, to be commended for everything they did.
I think it's also worth mentioning that we have had correspondence from a ratepayer in Swansea who was particularly complimentary to some work the staff have done in that area. So we are incredibly lucky to have the staff that we have, I think. There's no other questions or comments. I will put the motion on. Those in favour? Those against? It carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 8 is officers' reports requiring a decision. 8.1 is a review of the delegation register. There is a recommendation on page 51. Thank you. Councillor Young, thank you.
I move the council endorses the revised delegations register as attached to this report item.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Walker, thank you.
I
Councillor
would
Young,
like-
do you wish to comment?
Yes, briefly. Delegation register is a moving feast. It would be very nice if the acting general manager could put the list of the current delegations on the council intranet for the councillors to be able to look at any one time to save him for that. And about whether the matter had to come to council or whether it was acted as a result of the general manager's delegation. It would make it easy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr Bushbuck, if they're already there, aren't they?
I would have to take advice on that, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
They may be.
Well, if they're big updated, then that's the case. Otherwise, I'll recommend the name.
I just have a recollection that they were on the internet, Councillor Young, but I might have that
I
completely wrong.
may be at fault because I had very great difficulty in opening the stuff on my computer, and there's no one I know of here that I can ask.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments on the report? Councillor Churchill, thank you. Then Councillor Gregson.
Just one very quick question.
Mhm.
The only changes that were made was in the title change for the Director of Corporate and Community to Director of Corporate and Communications. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, yes, that's it. That's noted on page 50. Effectively, that's the only change.
Right, okay. Just wasn't highlighted in the report, so it was, that's fine, thank you.
Councillor Gregson and then Councillor McQueenie.
Through the Mayor, pursuant to Councillor Churchill's question, position title change, it's got here, it's going from the Director of Corporate and Community to the Director of Corporate and Communication. In the amendments, it's communication is pursuant to IT. What other roles are changing apart from that in this change of title?
Mr. Porch, I'm happy for you to answer it, but I'm not sure that it's relevant in this discussion.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's a report later on in the meeting where that can be probably fleshed out in more detail.
And the second question was on page 51, sorry, and we've got the colour coding here of risk. There's no key, so it's got to be green and orange.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll refer the councillors to the risk register where that is explained. So green, of course, is all good with green. Yellow is low. Amber is high, and red is extreme.
Thank you. Councillor McQueenie. You had your hand up?
Yes, I did. And sorry, I am going to have to pass. It wasn't an important issue. It was just a point of clarification.
Okay, thank you. There's no further questions or comments in relation to this report. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Are you against, Councillor Gregson?
Sorry, I'm in favour.
Thank
I'm a
you.
bit
The
late.
motion's
Bit
carried
slow,
unanimously.
Madam Mayor. He's getting old and old and 21.
Through there, I'll not be objecting to that
Councillors,
comment.
please, I would remind you, councillors, that this is a formal council meeting. Agenda item 9 is the notice of motion. There are no notices of motion. There are no petitions at agenda item 10. Agenda item 11 is questions on notice from councillors. There are no questions on notice. Agenda item 11.2 is comments or statements by councillors. Councillor McQueenie, then councillor Gregson.
Just wanted to comment on the Swansea Anzac Day service that I attended and where others attended different ones, and to let those in the chamber, if they're not aware, but also people in the community know that the focus of the discussion, or not discussion, sorry, the focus of the presentation, if you like, in that part of the Anzac service was on the PEG flag.
On the what?
The PEG flag. The PEG flag is essentially a flag that a ex-Changi prisoner of war had kept with him through the period of the war. It's incredibly important historically, if you like, to Australia's defence history, and he kept that hidden, and it had an important role in the departure from Changi of prisoners of war when they were released. And it's now hanging thanks to the gift of the Pegg family, his children, in the in Swansea RSL on the wall. It's encased there for as long, provided to them on the basis it will continue to be publicly available. It's an extraordinary document. It has signatures of about 100 prisoners of war that lived through that experience. None of them are actually currently within Glamorgan, but it's a key piece of Australians' history and terribly moving to look at it and imagine circumstances that those folk lived through. So I'd encourage people to go. And the museum has more information on it. What they have done at Swansea is to then investigate the names on that flag, so that they're gathering further history of the experience of those prisoners of war. So just want to commend them on the work that they've done and how they've made it available to community.
Thank you. Councillor Gregson.
Just, this is not my question, but pursuant to Councillor McQueenie's comments on the PEG flag, it's PEG, and it's Arthur Pegg's father who claimed that piece of flag for basically ceremonies throughout the war and different other things that they would use that flag for. If the person was caught, it would have been, they wouldn't be talking about it now, and it took a great risk. So and it was offered to the Australian War Memorial, other family, but that was refused. So the RSL at Swansea has it displayed in a very nice case. So as Councillor McQueenie said, it is well worth a visit. I'd just like to acknowledge two former East Coast councillors, one being Brian Winspear, who passed away aged 104, who basically was involved with the RAAF during World War II, and after World War II he decided to have a break and go to Bicheno, and he set up a shop, the first shop at Bicheno, and whereas before Mr. Winspear set up his shop, all the groceries would come from Swansea, and then after that he had a service station. I think if I recall Mr. Winspear's ABC radio interview, I think he used to dispense the petrol from 44-gallon drums. So, and then he went on to develop the Silver Sands, which is an iconic hotel on the East Coast, and the beachfront motel and other things. And also, I'd like to acknowledge the Sea Life Centre. I'm pretty sure he also was part of that, along with a former mayor or warden at the time, would have been Bill Bailey. I'm pretty sure that Bill Bailey had an involvement in the Sea Life Centre. And Bill Bailey was the former warden of Glamorgan municipality. And I'm pretty sure when the amalgamation came, he may have been the warden or became warden after that changeover. And also another councillor that I had a close association with, who was a surfer, English teacher, abalone diver and farmer. And it's when you go along to memorial services, you really don't know what these people have done. He was born to English parents in Malaya. It was Malaya at the time, and his father was an MI5, worked for MI5, and seeing that children were under threat, this particular person and his brother had to be moved to England for their schooling and public schooling system, which is equivalent to the private school here. And then they decided to come to Australia, to Melbourne, because his father was to work with a newly constructed ASIO. So you don't really know these people's history, but he came to Tasmania, and that's how I got to know him. But he also, I'm including the Break of Day Council here because Jim Larvey, he basically served on the Break of Day for 2 terms, and he decided to get out because he thought fresh ideas and new people was a good concept. But I really like to congratulate him because he was a marvellous person. And
did you say Break of Day Council?
yes, he's an East Coast councillor, and yes, and there's only a fine line between Break of Day and Vermont Spring Day, and
That's almost gone, Madam Mayor.
yeah, so that's my 2 tributes to Jim Larvey
Thank
and
you.
Brian Winston.
Thank you for that.
And also, just number 2, I'd like to place on record that Shane Gordon and her husband Milton are quite willing to do a workshop if the council is willing to take that on board on Float to Survive, considering a number of drownings over Easter. And also, I'd like the council to consider a play enclosure around the children's equipment area of Jubilee Beach and Duck Park at Swansea, which is really required quite urgently for safety reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Statements? Thank you. Agenda item 12 is the confidential items. So in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, as Mayor, I declare the meeting closed to the public in order to discuss the following matters. Item 1 is the minutes of the closed session of the meeting 25th of March. Item 2 is co-health contract reporting. Item 3 is a personnel matter. Item 4 is a notice of motion, Councillor Churchill. Item 5 is the Acting General Manager, a report from the Acting General Manager, Mr. Peter Porch. There is a recommendation on page 55. Councillor Young.
I move that council moves into closed session at 3:17.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Walker, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. I will now confirm with our Executive Officer if the recording has been terminated. Thank you.